Twins. Introduced my sister was as beautiful as a movie star. So I sold her to a trafficker. My parents cried, and I was indifferent. A few years later, on my mother's birthday, I decided to give her a big gift. I found my trafficked sister and brought her home. Mom! As Xiaoran's frightened cry rang out, the bottle of lotion in my hand fell to the ground and shattered into many pieces. Xiaoran rushed out angrily, crying and complaining to her mother who was running over. She dared to use my lotion. Mom! Look at my face, has it become rough? Her voice was sharp, and she pretended to sob. Mother was extremely worried, rubbing her face and blowing on it non-stop. Baby, are you okay? Xiaoran turned her head and pointed at me, her eyes were cruel. It's all her fault. Mother turned to look at me, saw the bottle of lotion shattered on the ground, her expression changed in an instant. She quickly walked over, grabbed my ear and dragged me out of the house. What did I tell you? Huh? You dared to put this on your face behind my back? Do you want to harm your sister? I bit my lip and didn't say a word. She angrily kicked me a few times, then made me stand under the scorching sun as punishment. She immediately turned around and went inside to comfort Xiaoran. It was now the hot month of August, the sunlight was shining on my face, burning it. I squinted my eyes, tears streaming down my face, the burning sensation was even more intense. From inside the house, Xiaoran's happy voice rang out, Mom! Look, do I look a little whiter now? It seemed that no one could recognize that Xiaoran and I were twins. He had fair skin, a tall body, and excellent academic performance. As for me, I had dark skin, a chubby body, and dropped out of school and stayed at home. From a young age, my parents told everyone that I was the child of a relative in the countryside. But in fact, Xiaoran and I were exactly alike. Until we were 2 years old, a Taoist priest passed by my house and asked for a bowl of water. Xiaoran and I were playing with rocks outside the door when he saw us. He looked at us in surprise. Are you two twins? My mother laughed and said, That's right. He clapped his hands. These are not ordinary twins. These are the rare yin-yang twins that only appear once in 100 years. When a yin-yang pair is born, when one is strong, the other is weak. These are yin-yang twins. From childhood to adulthood, countless events in my and Xiaoran's growth have proven this hypothesis. When one gets sick, the other will become extremely healthy. When one gets fat, the other will lose weight. When one's academic performance declines, the others will improve dramatically. It's miraculous. But this miracle also pushes me into the abyss. My parents are very ambitious people. When they see other people's children are smart and clever, while their 2 daughters are normal, they are both angry and jealous. When I was 5 years old, they made a decision. They decided to sacrifice one daughter, devoting all their efforts to training one to become a proud daughter of heaven. And I, Xiaoying, was that sacrificed child. In order to take good care of Xiaoran's skin, I had to stand under the sunlight every day at noon. These past few days, my face had been extremely sore, I really couldn't stand it, so I secretly used some lotion to soothe the pain. I didn't expect Xiaoran to find out. My vision turned black, my whole body was exposed to the sun until I was dizzy. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the door behind me was pushed open. Here's some food for you, fat pig, eat. It was Xiaoran. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and slowly turned around and walked into the house. My meal had already been prepared next to the dining table. A large basin was overflowing, just like pig food. They would force me to eat so much food. It was just to keep Xiaoran slim. They wanted to take Xiaoran to acting school, hoping that she could enter the entertainment industry and become a famous big star. Tomorrow is the day Xiaoran will take the school's mock exam. I heard that the school will come to the location to select people. The whole family gathered around her and asked her questions, preparing a lot of things. I washed the dishes in the kitchen, cleaned up the things, like an invisible person. By midnight, Xiao Ran's complexion had turned a little bad. She frowned and said angrily to her mother, "It's all because you kept asking to buy me ice cream at noon. I seem to have a slight cold now. I have to go to school to take the exam tomorrow. If I don't do well on the exam because I'm sick, I won't get good results." Mom comforted her while looking for medicine for her. Dad had just returned from outside. Seeing her like this, he was a little stunned. "What's wrong?" Mom explained, Ran has a slight fever, I'm afraid it will affect your school exam tomorrow." Dad frowned and thought for a moment, then as if suddenly realizing, he said, "There's no need to be so troublesome. Don't we already have medicine?" After saying that, he turned to look at me. In an instant, everyone's eyes were on me. I unconsciously took a step back, my heart pounding like thunder. "Mom! Let me go!" I screamed in panic. But Mom still pressed my hand down without any hesitation. She put me in the bathtub and casually poured cold water on my head. Turning my head, I shouted to Dad, "Have you bought ice yet? This damn girl has extremely good physical health. Without ice, I'm afraid she wouldn't even be sick." They wanted to use my illness to get a healthy Xiao Ran. I struggled, tears suddenly welling up in my eyes. Mom comforted me perfunctorily, "You're the older sister, what's wrong with helping your younger sister? When she becomes a big star in the future and makes money, you'll be the one to enjoy the blessings." Not at all. I soberly understood that those slim and beautiful stars had so many strict requirements for their appearance and figure. If Xiao Ran could enter the entertainment industry, then I would be 10,000 times more miserable than I am now. The bone-chilling ice blocks were directly dropped. I was frozen until my face was pale and I was trembling. My parents tied me up in the bathtub. I don't know how long it had been. I heard Xiao Ran's voice. It seems like your fever has gone down." Early the next morning, they took Xiao Ran to the exam venue. I caught a cold and couldn't even get out of bed. In my days, it seemed like someone was knocking on my window. I was in the basement, only half of the window frame was exposed, and occasionally a few children came to play. I opened my eyes wide and looked over. It was a child named Bei Bei from the house next door. She knocked on the window and called out to me, "Sister Ying, what's wrong?" I struggled to stand up and opened the window. "Sister is sick, I can't play with you today." The little girl looked a little disappointed, then turned around and ran away. I waited for a while but didn't see her come back, and was about to close the window when I heard a series of footsteps. Bei Bei ran over, holding all kinds of medicine in her hand. "I found some medicine in the house, Sister Ying, take a look and see if it works." My heart was warm, my eyes were red. The reason was because of my appearance. It seemed like no one here paid attention to me, only Bei Bei considered me a friend. I softly replied, "Thank you." After Bei Bei chatted with me for a day, she stood up and looked around. I was a little suspicious. "What's wrong?" The little girl squatted down and said in a low voice, "My mother said there are human traffickers around here. She doesn't allow me to go out and play for too long. Sister Ying, I should probably go home." I smiled, "It's okay, go home, be careful." After Bei Bei left, the basement once again fell into silence. I turned to look at the small window, remembering what the girl had said. Traffickers. They must have loved the pretty young girl. "Mom! Let me go!" I screamed in panic. But Mom still pressed my hand down without any hesitation. She put me in the bathtub and casually poured cold water on my head. Turning my head, I shouted to Dad, "Have you bought ice yet?" This damn girl has extremely good physical health. Without ice, I'm afraid she wouldn't even be sick. They wanted to use my illness to get a healthy Xiao Ran. I struggled, tears suddenly welling up in my eyes. Mom comforted me perfunctorily. You're the older sister, what's wrong with helping your younger sister? When she becomes a big star in the future and makes money, you'll be the one to enjoy the blessings. Not at all. I soberly understood that those slim and beautiful stars had so many strict requirements for their appearance and figure. If Xiao Ran could enter the entertainment industry, then I would be 10,000 times more miserable than I am now. The bone-chilling ice blocks were directly dropped. I was frozen until my face was pale and I was trembling. My parents tied me up in the bathtub. I don't know how long it had been. I heard Xiao Ran's voice. It seems like your fever has gone down. Early the next morning, they took Xiao Ran to the exam venue. I caught a cold and couldn't even get out of bed. In my days, it seemed like someone was knocking on my window. I was in the basement, only half of the window frame was exposed, and occasionally a few children came to play. I opened my eyes wide and looked over. It was a child named Bei Bei from the house next door. She knocked on the window and called out to me, "Sister Ying Ying, what's wrong?" I struggled to stand up and opened the window. "Sister is sick, I can't play with you today." The little girl looked a little disappointed, then turned around and ran away. I waited for a while but didn't see her come back, and was about to close the window when I heard a series of footsteps. Bei Bei ran over, holding all kinds of medicine in her hand. "I found some medicine in the house, Sister Ying Ying, take a look and see if it works." My heart was warm, my eyes were red. The reason was because of my appearance. It seemed like no one here paid attention to me. Only Bei Bei considered me a friend. I softly replied, "Thank you." After Bei Bei chatted with me for a day, she stood up and looked around. I was a little suspicious. "What's wrong?" The little girl squatted down and said in a low voice, "My mother said there are human traffickers around here. She doesn't allow me to go out and play for too long. Sister Ying Ying, I should probably go home." I smiled. "It's okay, go home, be careful." After Bei Bei left, the basement once again fell into silence. I turned to look at the small window, remembering what the girl had said. Traffickers. They must have loved the pretty young girl. On the 10th day of wandering aimlessly around this small town, I finally found the human trafficking group that Bei Bei had mentioned. A woman was standing at the end of the street looking for a target. I was so hurried that I accidentally bumped into her. She jumped in surprise, raised her head to look at me in fear. When she saw my appearance clearly, disgust appeared on her face. I pretended as if I didn't see anything, squatted on the ground and started crying. I cried so hard that my eyes were stinging. Many people looked this way. I directly grabbed her trouser leg, held on tightly and wouldn't let go, sobbing, "Auntie, tell me, is my figure really bad?" The woman couldn't avoid it for a moment. She could only smile apologetically. "No, your face is very cute. I still have things to do, don't cling to me anymore." My cries grew louder. "You lied to people. No one has ever said that I look cute. Everyone will only praise Xiao Ran, saying that she is beautiful and good-looking." The woman was so stunned by my shaking that she sat on the ground, lying face down. When she regained her senses, she was about to get angry at me when I held up the photo in front of her. "Auntie, look at my sister. Is she really more beautiful than me when she grows up? But we are clearly twins." The woman looked at the photo, and her whole body was immediately stunned. Her eyes lit up. "Little girl, is this your little sister?" I nodded gently. Her attitude instantly became as warm as the spring breeze. "Little girl, where is your home?" I pointed forward. There was a house built at the intersection before. The woman transformed into a gentle older sister, chatting and comforting me, but every word she said was superfluous. She wanted to get to know my younger sister, Xiao Ran. I revealed everything in a low voice. Since she was little, everyone has liked her. Her face is beautiful. The boys in class all have a secret crush on her. But they don't know, every night, she will go to the lake to date the class president. She has had a boyfriend for a long time. Why does everyone not like me? Seeing that she seemed to have gathered enough information, the woman no longer had the patience to continue chatting with me. She quickly stood up. I still have something to do, I'll go first. Watching her back as she quickly left, I raised my hand without changing my expression and wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes. When I got home, I pushed the door open and my mother rushed over, panting, "Where are you going?" I shrank my neck, "Going out with Bei." My mother glared at me, "When you go out in the future, you have to tell your parents." I nodded, "I know." They were afraid that I would leave quietly. They were afraid that the girl would run out of medicine.
Ha!
It was really disgusting. Xiaoran was dressed neatly and beautifully, and when she passed by, I frowned and raised my hand to cover my nose. I rarely called her back. "Where are you going?" She looked at me in surprise, then immediately sneered, "What does it have to do with you?" My mother pulled my arm and said, "Your sister is going to the class reunion. She will become a big star in the future. There will be so many classmates who will want to flatter her. Get away. Don't get close to your sister. You look like you're covered in stench. Don't infect your sister." Xiaoran sneered, picked up her bag and walked out the main door. I guess that she not only wanted to attend the class reunion, but also wanted to go to the lake to see her little boyfriend. This little boyfriend's family was a famous business. Before she became a big star, she needed to hold on to him tightly. But now it was different from before. She was about to rise like a kite. This kind of lingering affection was like black material after becoming famous to her. She definitely had to break up with him to settle things once and for all. Xiaoran went missing. The whole family searched from midnight until early morning, but there was no trace of her. Her little boyfriend was so scared that his face turned pale. We said
Goodbye
to each other at the lake. I watched her leave. How could she have gone missing? Mother cried until she was about to faint. She went straight to the police station to report it. Because Xiaoran was not yet 18 years old, the police station quickly took over the case. However, after searching for several days, they still found nothing. Xiaoran seemed to have disappeared into thin air within the town. Of course, they wouldn't find her. That group of human traffickers would definitely leave immediately after capturing Xiaoran. After all, one person like Xiaoran was worth 10 people. Right now, they had already run into some deep mountain. I lowered my head to look at my arm. The skin was smooth, and there was originally a scar. But early this morning, this scar had disappeared. The corners of my mouth curled up. It seemed that my beloved little sister had been beaten. During the half-month that Xiaoran had gone missing, my parents were only anxiously searching for her, and had no time to pay attention to me. They didn't care if I ate or not, or if I was sunbathing. They only wanted to find the treasure they had carefully created. So, I secretly started to lose weight and quietly take care of my skin. Before, I was so tormented that I was really too sloppy, so I just casually exercised and took care of my skin a little, and the changes were huge. One evening, when I was playing with Bei, covered her face and looked at me in amazement. "Wow, big sister Ying, you've become so beautiful." Her words were heard by her mother who had just returned from outside. Her face was tired, and she turned to look at me. Looking at her appearance, there was still no news of Xiaoran today. Her eyes focused on my face. 3 seconds later, her expression changed. She glared at me fiercely. "Get in here." I lowered my head and followed her in. Without hesitation, my mother raised her hand and slapped me across the face. "What are you putting on your face?" She grabbed my hair. "Haven't you been eating much these past few days? You haven't been sunbathing either? Your sister will come back. If you dare to ruin her, I'll make you look good. I covered my face, looked up at her, and suddenly burst out laughing. She was stunned for a moment. What are you laughing at? You're laughing. What if my sister can't come back? My mother's entire body stiffened, and she unconsciously loosened her hand. She had already expected this outcome. She hadn't been able to sleep all night these past few days, and it was all because of this. If Xiaoran can't come back, then all their hard work for half their lives will be in vain. If she can't come back, can't you consider me? I observed my mother's expression, then held her hand tightly, and knelt directly on the ground. Mom, I'm also your daughter. If Xiaoran can do it, then I can do it too. She can become a big star, and I can too. Look at me, I just casually put in a little effort and I've already started to become beautiful. I'll be even more beautiful in the future. Mom, I can be filial to you on behalf of my little sister. I was so sincere that tears and snot streamed down my face. My mother's hand retracted as if she had been electrocuted. Her expression was panicked, and she slowly returned to her room. I still have to think about it for a while. Let me think about it. Looking at my mother's slightly bent waist, I stood up from the ground. I knew for sure that she would definitely agree. Anyway, for her, I am the last resort. For several days in a row, I saw my parents' room lit up until late at night. They were discussing. They were hesitating between finding Xiaoran or cultivating another talented daughter. Early in the morning of the fourth day, my mother knocked on my door. Ying, we won't live in this basement anymore. I'll help you clean up the room upstairs, then you can move up here. It seemed that on the 20th day of Xiaoran's disappearance, my mother had given up on her. Instead, she chose me. This kind of family affection was really touching. I smiled. Thank you, Mother. I went upstairs. On the dining table, there were already eggs and milk. It was no longer the greasy rice mixed with pork in the past. This was the breakfast my mother had prepared for me. My mother came from behind me, her voice gentle. Ying, I've prepared a healthy diet for you. From now on, we'll eat based on this diet. Also, Mom bought you a set of high-end skincare products. Don't forget to use them day and night. Wait until we're done eating. Mom will take you to a beauty salon. Ying's temperament is very good. She will definitely become beautiful soon. And your hair, Mom will take you to fix it up a bit. While we were chatting, Dad came back from outside. When he saw me, he was stunned for a moment, but he reacted very quickly. He smiled and walked over, looking like a kind father. Ying has become beautiful. Ying, Dad found you a fitness trainer. He can help you lose 20 pounds in a month. I leisurely finished the last dessert, then raised my head, looked at them and smiled. Thank you, Mom and Dad. So this was the treatment Xiaoran had always given me? This feeling is really not bad. When my weight dropped to 100 pounds, my parents moved with me. They told outsiders that they had found Xiaoran, but she was traumatized and needed to move to another place to recuperate. Because my mother saw that my changes were getting bigger and bigger, my parents made a decision. They wanted me to replace Xiaoran to enroll in school. After all, Xiaoran had already obtained special admission certificates from many schools. These resources could not be wasted. And I was losing weight, taking care of my skin, and taking makeup classes for my academic subjects. When I was here before, Xiaoran could easily achieve these things without much effort. Now, I could only rely on myself. But so what? I couldn't help but feel dissatisfied. After all, compared to my previous life, this was truly a magical time. I kept studying hard, developing myself every second. This process of constant change gave me a sense of satisfaction. A year later, I finally caught up with the progress of school. Although my grades couldn't be considered too good, but for art, this level was enough. My weight also dropped to 94 kilograms, and my appearance changed dramatically. Mom gently stroked my face, so beautiful, so good-looking. Ing, you're not just a little more beautiful than your sister. Now, I had become the treasure that my parents couldn't let go of. From now on, I wanted to live Xiao Ran's life. I replaced Xiao Ran to enter a top art academy in the country. In my second year of college, I was chosen by a famous director to participate in the ancient drama about power and intrigue, Dong Feng. After the drama was broadcast, my reputation skyrocketed, winning many awards. And my role as the beauty queen also became famous. I was voted one of the most promising young actresses of the year. That year, I was only 20 years old. My mother was overjoyed, hugged me and cried, "My good daughter, I really did not love you in vain. You will definitely become a big star in the future. I have sacrificed a lot for you, don't forget me." I gently patted her on the shoulder, my voice gentle, "Of course, I will be filial to you." In my fourth year of college graduation, I had become one of the hottest young actresses in the entertainment industry. The advertising resources were endless. My parents also moved to a big house with me. On my mother's 45th birthday, I gave her a surprise birthday present. I found Xiao Ran and brought her home. Over the years, I never gave up looking for Xiao Ran. After all, she was my twin sister. When Xiao Ran appeared at home, my mother was so scared that she almost fainted. My father was also shocked to the point of being speechless. The Xiao Ran before their eyes was completely different from what they remembered. She stood there awkwardly, her skin rough, her body plump, her hair disheveled. Although she was only in her 20s, she looked like a middle-aged woman. Her current appearance was very similar to my past self. Xiao Ran finally recognized the relatives before her, and excitedly rushed forward to hug her mother. "Mom. It's Ran. Do you still remember me? Why didn't you come to find me all these years? Why didn't you look for me? Dad. Don't you even recognize me anymore?" My mother came back to her senses and looked at Xiao Ran with a complicated gaze. She patted her back. "Where have you been all these years?" Hearing this, Xiao Ran immediately went crazy. "I was kidnapped. They forced me to marry a single old man. That old man treated me very badly. He either beat me or scolded me all day long and forced me to give birth to his child." At this moment, my mother no longer had the patience to listen to her talk so much. After hearing a few sentences, she interrupted her. "It's good to be home. It's good to be home. Stay home and help your sister. Your sister has become successful now, she's a big star." Xiao Ran was stunned, stiffly turning her head to look at me standing at the door. Perhaps only now did she recognize me. I took off my sunglasses and walked towards her. I in her complicated gaze, I hugged her. "Little sister, welcome back." Xiao Ran let me hug her. 3 seconds later, she suddenly pushed me away. "Xiao Ying? Are you that ugly fat pig Xiao Ying?" She looked at me in horror, her eyes constantly scanning my body, finally shouting, "It was her who harmed me. It was you who made me fat and ugly. It's all your fault." She turned to my mother and shouted, "Mom. Quickly help me get back to how I used to be. You made Xiaoying eat a lot of food, let her stand in the sun, making her ugly and fat again." My mother's face changed color. She shouted, "What nonsense are you talking about? She's your sister." My father also pulled her away. "Our family has been living peacefully for a while now, you can just live here with peace of mind. From now on, you have to listen to your sister." Xiao Ran looked at them, gradually understanding. "You guys abandoned me and chose her?" Xiao Ran went crazy. She wanted to rush over and hit me, but before she could even touch my face, she was held back by her parents. My mother looked at me, revealing a flattering smile. "Ying, don't worry, your parents won't let her hurt you. Now that she's back, you'll definitely become even more beautiful. She was hinting that she wanted to use Xiao Ran as a tonic for me, sacrificing her to make me better. Just like how she sacrificed me to fulfill her before. Xiao Ran froze, looking at her fearfully. Mom, what are you talking about? I'm Ran Ran. Didn't you say you loved me the most? Dad, why didn't you say anything? Didn't you say you loved me the most? I looked at her, only feeling pitiful. Idiot, the person they love the most is themselves. I don't need it, I refused my mother's offer. Whatever I want, I will get it myself. A slim figure, a pretty face, I will manage and take care of it myself. A good script, good resources, I will also fight for it myself. I pointed at Xiao Ran. You two just try to take good care of your little sister. After saying that, I turned around and left the house. I didn't live with them anymore. I had my own place. Living together with them would make me feel disgusted. I was very busy and could only visit home once a week. That night, as soon as I got home, I saw someone squatting in front of the door. It was my mother. She saw me and quickly greeted me. Ing Ing, did you just get off work? I nodded. What's up? She smiled shyly. Nothing, nothing. I was afraid you weren't used to eating outside food, so I made some small dishes and brought them to you. I looked at the box she was holding. Thank you, Mom. A bright smile appeared on her lips. I continued, but I'm on a diet these days, on a strict diet, I can't eat these things. As I spoke, I opened the door and entered the house. My mother followed me inside, standing shyly at the door. It's okay, I'll bring them back for Xiao Ran to eat. After she finished speaking, she carefully said, she's gotten a little fatter these days. I responded with an, and didn't say anything more. I could feel that she was trying to please me. After all, I was the family's breadwinner now, and they were counting on me to make a living. My mother asked me kindly, are you busy or free these days? Are there any new movies coming up? Me, not too busy these days, I have to audition tomorrow. If I get selected, I'll probably join the crew by the end of the year. My mother laughed and said, Ing Ing is really talented. Much better than Ran Ran. I stood in front of the makeup mirror, frowning as I took off my jewelry. Tisk. My mother quickly asked, what's wrong? I looked at my left cheek in the mirror and said absent-mindedly, a pimple suddenly popped up. I hope it won't affect your audition tomorrow. My mother was worried when she heard that. What? She looked at my face, a little anxious. But I didn't care and avoided her hand. It's nothing, it's fine. I took out a card from my pocket. Mom, I have transferred all of your future living expenses to this card. You two can use it as you wish. Mom's heart blossomed as she accepted it. Thank you, Ing Ing. After receiving the card, she didn't stand there any longer. Before leaving, she said to me with a joyful face, Ing Ing, don't worry, this pimple on your face will go away soon. I won't let it affect your audition. After Mom left, I closed the door. After washing my face and lying on the bed, I took out my phone and turned on the surveillance camera in the house. Mom said that Xiao Ran had gotten fat again recently. She was showing off her achievements to me. Xiao Ran had finally been turned into my medicine by her. Tonight, it seemed like she wanted to use this medicine to cure me again. In the surveillance video, Mom walked into the house from outside the door. Dad quickly sat up from the sofa. How is it? Did she give her money? Mom held out the card. Go to the bank tomorrow and check how much money is inside. Dad smiled. Ing Ing really has a future. Oh, that's right. Mom whispered a few words into Dad's ear. While whispering, she looked towards the room at the end of the hallway. Not long after, Mom walked over. Xiao Ran, what are you doing? Come out quickly. Xiao Ran's voice immediately rang out from inside. Want to force me to eat something again? I'm telling you to, there's no way. I want to lose weight now, I want to become beautiful. I won't eat anything. Mom's face darkened, and she directly took out the spare key to open Xiao Ran's room door. Xiao Ran screamed as she was dragged out by her hair by her mother. She was thrown to the ground, falling until she was dizzy. Before she could react, her hands and feet were held down. She looked at her parents in horror. What are you two doing? No one paid attention to her question. Dad lit a cigarette and asked Mom, where did Ying get the pimple? Don't remember wrongly. Mom pointed at Xiao Ran's left cheek. Here, it won't be wrong. Moreover, what if I remember wrongly? At most we'll just heat it up a few more times. Nothing is more important than Ying's future. Their expressions were cruel, pressing down on Xiao Ran with force, extremely like a demon from hell. Xiao Ran cried until her heart and lungs were broken. I looked at the camera, raised my head and touched my left cheek. The pimple there had disappeared. My parents didn't care about one thing. They forgot that Xiao Ran was different from me. She had experienced a fairy life. The feeling of falling from the clouds into the mud was much more uncomfortable than the feeling of always being in the mud. She would go crazy after being treated so heartlessly. After going crazy, she would take revenge. When I received the news that they had a traffic accident, I had just finished my audition. I heard that Xiao Ran had run away from home and was taken back by her parents. On the way home, Xiao Ran suddenly couldn't help but rush forward and grab the steering wheel. The car flipped over several times before stopping. By the time I got to the hospital, my father's vital signs were gone. Xiao Ran and my mother were still in the operating room, their lives and deaths unknown. I squatted at the door of the operating room, crying my heart out. Someone recognized me and took my picture and posted it online. The keyword #HotFemaleCelebrityFamily suddenly got into an accident in a few short hours and shot straight to Weibo's hot search. Someone dug up my background. My parents raised me with bitterness and bitterness. My twin sister was tricked and sold, and only found her 5 years later. My sister's mental state was unstable, leading to this car accident, and also leading to my father's death. Netizens left messages under my Weibo, sending me private messages. They comforted me, helped me stay strong, and said they would be by my side to help me get through this difficult time. In one night, I gained 2 million fans. Mom was saved, but became a vegetable. Whether she would wake up or not was unknown. Of the three, Xiao Ran was the one with the lightest injuries. She had a few broken bones, and after a few months of rest, she could basically get out of bed. When I went to her hospital room to visit her, her whole body went crazy again. Go away. Get lost. Are you happy to see me like this? I put on my sunglasses, my face unchanged as I looked at her. Happy? You don't know, during this time when you were in the hospital, I actually tried out some very interesting roles. Xiao Ran was stunned for a moment, then picked up the stick beside her and wanted to hit me. I gently moved away, dodging. Recover your injuries well, little sister, the police comrade is still waiting to call you. After walking out of Xiao Ran's hospital room, I went to visit my mother again. She was lying on the bed, looking so calm. I helped her pull up the soft blanket. Gently adjusted the corner of the blanket. Mom, you want good days, I will definitely live well in your place. Xiao Ran was summoned by the police because she was involved in a crime that harmed Social Security. But during the interrogation, she kept asking one thing and answering another. She kept saying things like Duong Tai, I am the big star, someone wants to harm me. After a while, it was no longer clear. After the doctor examined her, he confirmed that she had psychological problems. I threw her into the best mental hospital in the city. It had the most advanced treatment and the most thoughtful service. The director held my hand and exclaimed, "Not only are you beautiful, but you also have such a kind heart." I sighed. "Who told her to be your older sister and me your younger sister?" The director took a notebook out of his pocket. "I am your fan, would you mind signing my name?" I smiled, and as a result, I signed my name on the notebook like flowing water and clouds. Xiao ran. "No matter how busy I am filming, I will take some time every month to visit my mother in the hospital and visit my sister in the psychiatric hospital." Today, in my mother's hospital room, I saw a news on my phone and finally couldn't help but laugh. "Mom, look at this." I held the phone up in front of her. I was voted into the most dedicated female celebrity of that year. I became a big star as you wished. "Mom, are you happy?" When I walked out of the hospital room, I put on my sunglasses and cap, fully equipped, and walked into the elevator. There was a man and a woman standing in the elevator, each holding a child in their arms. They were two children who looked exactly alike. I looked at them and couldn't help but smile. "Are you two twins?" The woman's face was happy. "Yes, that's right, you two are twins. The older one is sick, we took him to see a doctor." I followed the couple out of the hospital, one after the other. After the manager saw me, he drove back to the company. When I was waiting for the red light, I saw the couple again. They were standing on the side of the road, being followed by a Taoist priest. I rolled down the car window and turned to look. Yin Yang fetus. Yin Yang fetus again. This old Taoist priest has actually met two pairs of yin yang fetuses in this life. This is truly a strange thing. The woman was so annoyed by him that she said, "Get out of the way, we still have things to do." The Taoist priest grabbed her arm tightly. "These two sons of yours, if you sacrifice one, the other can become a proud daughter of heaven." The woman shook his hand off and cursed, "Listen to your lies. The two children are my treasures. I don't want them to become the proud daughters of heaven, I just want them to be safe." The man stepped forward to protect his wife and children, warning the old Taoist priest, "If you don't leave, I'll go call the police." The old Taoist priest clicked his tongue and reluctantly left. He continued to mumble, "The heavens created yin and yang. When one flourishes, the other declines. The yin fetus is in the mud, the yang fetus is in heaven."
Ha! 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 Ha!
I watched the couple carrying their child walk away, until they turned a corner and disappeared. I retracted my gaze. The manager asked me worriedly, "What's wrong?" I shook my head. "It's okay, I'm fine, let's go."